Well, it's Thursday, February 5th, Super Bowl week. Boys are ready. The books are ready. The suckers are ready. It's going to be a little bit of a different week for us here. We've got special guest, Roos the Goose, in the house.
Happy to be here, fellas.
Very exciting.
We've
got Roos the Goose dialed up for a little off-season content with us, and hopefully he'll stick around for next year, main season. And we apologize for missing last week. It was Snowmageddon, Ice-mageddon here in Nashville, which really took me out of commission. And then Austin in Charlotte is dealing with that right now, but he somehow figured out how to make the pod this week. So, Austin, I appreciate you.
Prius still runs.
Haven't had the Prius in 8 years, Kyle.
All-wheel drive. It's
Baby. It's
not,
a beast.
not something on the agenda. All right, so, kind of no opening statement this week, but let's start here. Super Bowl week, pretty exciting. Obviously, it's a big week in the NFL generally. This is the saddest time of the year, in my opinion, because there were no games this past weekend, so no football. Football is about to go dormant, but it is what it is.
Sad.
Seahawks, Patriots. Good conference championship week. Watched it on a phone/laptop because we had no power and was.
I bet you love that.
I mean, man, that was just brutal, for really being honest. But it was still a fun game. Snowmageddon with the Pats Broncos. Good game. Seahawks Rams was just electric. Obviously, Rams didn't get there, but the overhit was pretty great, and that was a fun game. Just kind of across the board there. Sam Darnold. We'll get into this with the Super Bowl preview, but and why don't we go right there? Patriots line opened Seahawks -3.5, and it just got smashed immediately.
Sharps loving the Seahawks, man.
Dropped a full point. Seattle's going to be favored now, 4.5 points. Your total on this game is trending down from 46.5 as the opener down to 45.5. Obviously, we're going to be in Santa Clara. Should be pretty nice weather. The NFL has just decided that we are never going to play a Super Bowl game in not prime conditions, but not indoors this year, which is better than we've had the last few years.
Yeah, that stadium's great. What could go wrong with that stadium? That stadium's great. It's perfect.
Neither of the teams practicing at the 49ers practice facility this week. That's
incredibly shocked by that.
Shocking.
Shock. Electric shocked.
Somehow
guys,
nuclear.
what do we think? What do we think about this matchup? I mean, obviously a lot of storylines coming into place. This is year one for Vrabel at the Pats. Just another dagger in the heart of the Titans and
Nation.
What we can not get right here as an organization. We'll get into the Salah hire, though. Very excited about that. Dable hire, very excited about that. And then obviously on the other side, we've got, Sam Darnold, kind of the redemption story with the Seahawks, getting to the Super Bowl. I think this is going to be a well-attended Super Bowl, despite not having our major players in there. But what do you guys think? I think it's going to deliver.
I think what's intriguing to me about this matchup, what we said, we got a over-under at 45. Is that right?
Yeah, 45.5.
We have two top 5 defenses looking at this game. What I really see interesting and how I'm interested to see also what your take is on what do you want to see going in that first few drives to potentially the over. You guys took the over a couple weeks ago. Hit. How can we get more?
So, Ryan, then you know that I took the Pats Super Bowl future probably 2 rounds ago.
We both did, but yeah.
Both did. So we're riding the Pats here for a while.
And we have that sitting in our pocket at what, plus 650 is what I'm seeing.
Plus 650 in our pocket.
Yep.
And the cockroaches at the books aren't giving us more than, plus 400 right now. Good for them. That's not what the odds reflect. But I think the Seahawks, they've been impressive. I love that we're on the side that we're on. I think Pats have been playing great defenses the whole playoffs. I don't think they're going to be surprised by anything. They have a great defense themselves. I think both of these teams have gone through a lot of weather adversity to get there. I think Drake May has underperformed the last couple rounds, but I'm excited to see him get back to MVP form in the Super Bowl. I hope it's, like you mentioned, these aren't like the marquee names that we've seen year in and year out for the last decade. I love that, and I hope this is an absolute like barn burner, high entertainment value. I hope the over hits just selfishly, but I hope there's good, competent play. I think the weather was really beating these guys up for a few rounds. Like, I just want to see both of these teams ball out, and I love Pats. If the Pats money line hits, Ryan, you may never see us again. We're going to be so wealthy. We may just, you know, just sail into
The
the sunset.
$20 really gonna
$20 plus 650 plus
come on.
650.
I think what's most interesting about this matchup is you look at the playoffs, and I think Austin brought up a good point about Drake may not play in his best. Arguably Texans with the best D. That was his best game, January 18th. I put up 28 points, but we did have the defensive score there for the Pats, four
right?
turnovers. But
Yeah.
the Patriots looking at 16 in the wild card round against a middle of the road Chargers defense. And then, last week or 2 weeks ago with the Pats Broncos, I'm looking at 45. I think Darnold is going to have a day. I think he's poised to do that. But I would be the under looking at historically defenses always come out hot and that first they have so long to prepare. So those schemes and those first scripted 15, 20 plays do well and then they settle in. For me, I'm not a get to yes on the over here.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. If you look at the history of the Super Bowls, and I think Bruce the Goose, what you're getting here is really important. You've got not only a lot of time for these defenses to plan. Obviously, offenses have the same amount of time, but there's a little bit of nervousness that's going to happen. And this is a different setup of a game than what any of these guys have experienced. I mean, the interesting thing from my perspective, just from a pure betting standpoint, is we have two quarterbacks who have never been there before going up against each other. We've got two head coaches that have never been there before going up against each other. So the lack of experience
as
coaches, right?
Vrabel has a lot of Super Bowl experience.
Sure. But as a coach, it's obviously different. And so when I think about it from that perspective, I expect the first quarter to be a pretty tight first quarter. I think that we're going to see some conservative game plans first quarter, first half, and it might, open up a little bit in the second half. I will say, I think points are going to be at a premium. I'm taking one pick on this game, and that's going to be the Pats plus 4.5. If you're going to go ahead and you're going to give me more than a field goal on either side here, I'm probably going to take it. We're in a neutral situation. And I think the reality here is I lean under, would love to see, these guys come out firing, but two really strong defenses, two really physical teams. I think that it's going to be a tough deal. The other thing that I will say here is when we think about Super Bowl betting, you obviously have a lot of options that you don't get in regular season games or even what we've seen in the playoffs. So the books have a proclivity to just offer a buffet of options. They may not let you get as much down as you would like to on any of these props, but there's a lot of fun props that are out there. Where I want to start with these props is on the MVP odds, which might seem like a pretty odd place to start, but the reason that I want to start there is I think that the MVP odds are a good marker for who's going to win the game, right? So if I have a strong feeling on who is going to win the game, as opposed to me betting the money line one way or the other, and for reference here, money line for the Seahawks is somewhere between minus 220, minus 240, depending on your book. Pats is plus 180 to plus 200, depending on your book. I like this idea of if I like the Seahawks here on the money line, I do like taking Sam Darnold.
Yeah, because you're getting plus odds at Sam Darnold, but they're minus 235 on my book. Yeah, man, that's a pretty big arbitrage there.
It's very rare that you see the quarterback not win the MVP in a Super Bowl. There have been times that that's happened recently, but it is more often than not. And look, I can make a case for, hey, if I really think that the wide receivers on Seattle, right? So JSN is going to just light it up. Okay, right? But what does he have to do in order to get the MVP versus the guy that's throwing him those touchdowns?
Who's like you gotta have it like more than 2 touchdowns. I don't know, 2 touchdowns at least. Right?
I also think you have to have like a one-handed catch that is the screenshot for the NFL going into the 2026 season. I mean,
Cooper Kupp had 2 touchdowns. You got to have that signature play and a ton of touchdowns.
And your quarterback has to make a mistake too. If Darnold throws a couple picks in addition to that happening, I could see it happen. Rooster Goose, what says you?
What I'm seeing right now is that you look at the last 20 years, only one defensive player has won the MVP in the last 20 years, but you also see
Von Miller. What do you know about that? What do you know about that, Kyle? What do you know about
Fortunately, too much. And then you see Cooper Kupp as like Austin said, eight catches, 92 yards, 2 tutties. I think what's
Malcolm
intriguing.
Smith. Put some respect on Malcolm Smith, man.
I said last 20 years, brother.
Last 20 years, modern era.
Modern era, buddy. But I think what's most intriguing about this is if there's anybody that has the potential, looking at JSN at 550, that's not a bad take at all on somebody other than a quarterback. I mean, listen, you got the 115. I think that's like you guys were saying, possibly easy money on the last 5 years. You got quarterback, Cooper Kupp. So looking at that, if I'm getting to yes, it's a guy that, as Austin said, has that one-handed catch, can be that big play guy. JSN 550 is a great bet.
Here's the other thing that I like about Darnold. Let's go back through Darnold's story here real quick. He gets drafted by the Jets, gets mono, saw ghosts against the Patriots, gets shipped off to Carolina, and doesn't even play much when he's there.
He gets benched, Carolina.
With Baker. And then he goes over to the Niners, kind of gets fixed. Vikings go ahead and they say, hey, we're going to take a chance on Darnold for a 1-year deal.
He did go to the Super Bowl with the Niners, though, Super Bowl experience.
Guy gets 14 wins there. And obviously doesn't play well in the playoffs. Vikings say, hey, we're good here. We have 9, JJ McCarthy in the house, and we're going to ride with him. And Seattle comes in, they say, that's pretty good value. We'll pay you $30 million a year to come QB here. I think Darnold's story for who is voting here, which is the guys in the building, the writers, I think that, to me,
if he wins, no matter what, he's the comeback kid.
I have a really hard time believing that if Seattle wins the game, Darnold doesn't get MVP. Reese, I would agree with you in a normal setting where JSN plus 550, for me personally, that's got to be like 10-1, 20-1 odds. It's a big spread there, but 10-1, 12-1 odds for me to really get interested in that, because I think the Darnold story is so strong. On the other side, if you are looking at the Pats, and what I will say here is on the Pats is, if you like the Pats in this game, go ahead and take the Pats money line, because the diff between plus 200 and plus 230,
it's not really there.
Not enough juice for me to really want to take a risk, because you are taking a risk, right? You're essentially saying, hey, there's an 80% chance that the winning quarterback is going to win the MVP, but I still have that 20% where something crazy could happen in the game. Stephon Diggs has 3 touchdown passes and runs one in on a crazy, and just kind of flips the game. So I don't know. That's how I think about it. What do you guys think?
The other thing that I'll say on that is just, it's really telling how many more weapons the Seahawks have than the Pats looking at these odds, right? It's saying that there's only only one Pat that has even a remote chance of winning this. Meanwhile, you've got the quarterback, the wide receiver, the running back, the second, wide receiver too. It's a good reminder how kind of stacked the Seahawks are on offense compared to the Pats, looking at the odds on here.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for some crazy long shots, I'll give you 2 that are interesting to me.
Hunter Henry
is interesting to me. That is the Pat side of the list for me. The Pats love throwing these tight end sets into their plays and have Hunter Henry. He hasn't been a playmaker for them this year, but I could see them really dialing up a couple of things that they get close to the goal line, as opposed to just handing it off to Ramondre and going into the end zone that way. I think that's interesting. You have a tight end that has 2-3 touchdowns. I mean, that's a way to get to the MVP there. And then on the other side, I don't know, this may be a weird pick, but on the surface, Cooper Kupp, local kid, obviously got released from the Rams, picked up by the Seahawks. They just beat the Rams. I think the story there on 100-1 odds for Cooper Kupp, it's compelling to me. I mean, he's got to have 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Go.
I want to add a little bit on that. You talk about how that is compelling. I mean, you look at the last game when they needed it the most. We talk about someone having been there before. You got a guy that's had a great game in the Super Bowl before, and when he was needed in that 4th down against the Rams, who did Darnold look to? Cooper Kupp. Who made the play? Cooper Kupp. I think he's coming on strong. I think the writers are going to love him. I got to second that. I'm taking a flyer 100 to 1. Cooper Kupp, that's a good bet.
I like it just as a little pizza bet story. I think the story lines up there. And again, this kind of goes back to my way that I think about MVP odds in the regular season. We talked about this a lot a couple weeks ago. It is about the story in the immediacy of that game. But the writers come in with the ideas, these preconceived notions about these guys. And if they perform, other than the quarterbacks, that's where you can, potentially get some stuff. So I'm not saying
crazy.
Go put $1,000 on Cooper Kupp at, 100 to 1 odds. But I think that if you want to play with something fun, that's interesting to me.
I mean, it's not crazy because you can see a world where, think of how people played the Rams this year, where they were just Panthers didn't do it, but they're just like, we're not going to let Puka beat us. And they just take their number 1 and over scheme for the top receiver. And that frees up kind of the second and third guys. There's a world where I could see them just saying, we're not going to let JSN beat us. And then Cooper Kupp's kind of that's kind of the gameplay that would have to happen for something like that to shake out. But it's not crazy to think. I mean, that's how Devontae has all these big games. He's single covered or zone all the time. And you can get open a lot.
Yeah. All right. Other props and things that I start thinking about when we come to Super Bowl week. Again, you have the grand buffet of options. It's like a couple of just cautionary things. You'll see some of these weird props where you're looking for exact scores, you're looking for bands, that sort of thing. My personal opinion is stay away from those. That you can really get hosed on those, and you're never getting a really good bet by doing that. What is interesting to me is you get a lot of yes/no scenarios. So when we go to regular season betting, there's the yes option, but you don't necessarily have the no option for a lot of these. So when I think about this, it's like, any player to score TDs, yes or no, right? 3 TDs, yes or no. Those are interesting bets to me to bet the no, because odds are going to say that, I'm probably in a good spot there. But any player to score 2+ TDs plus 125, yes, is minus 165. That's a no bet for me, especially if I expect a low scoring game. So if I take my game script and then I kind of feed into these where I can bet the no, that's something that I really like to do. The first field goal, the over-under is 38.5. I really, really, really like under 38.5 on that.
Interesting, because you think points are at a premium.
Points are at a premium, sure, but I believe that in these first drives, they are going to try and get, they're going to be going for it, right? Where we start to see teams kick longer field goals is when you are in a field goal game, and that's typically on the second half. Right. So I could see them up there. Anything else for you guys that's, I don't know, player to have higher passer rating? I mean, I love Darnold at plus 125 there. I don't know, to me, I think Drake May has not shown as much in the playoffs. I think Darnold is whipping it right now.
I think what's most intriguing, I think it was Drake May, 37.5 rushing yards at 180. That's a yes for me. You look at, I think there's 2 things I'm weighing here. One, only 2 quarterbacks have run for more than 37.5 yards.
On the over, you're saying?
Yeah.
Bruce, you like?
I like it. I do, yeah. Kyler and Jaden, both known for their legs. But if you look at what the Pats have had to do recently, they rely on May's legs quite a bit just to generate that, because
he had the most rushing attempts for a QB in the league this year.
Yeah. And so, I think about 37 is not that crazy. I think that's a really great kind of prop bet, taking over on that, plus 180.
Yeah, one thing I will say, and not to burst the bubble here, is I bet that at the opener, which was 29.5, and that thing has skyrocketed. So that's my only concern, is taking the number when it's already gone that far up is a little bit concerning to me. I think if you like the game script generally, it doesn't mean it's a bad bet just because you're not getting the best of the number. But it is something that I'm a slave to the market. And the reality here for me is I'm never going to touch a number where it's moved by 30%. The other thing that I will say, but, bringing up a great point here, is any of these, whether it's player prop totals or the total itself, if you're going to bet the under, wait until as close to kickoff as you can possibly get. This is, multi-billion dollars that are going into this game, and the public loves to bet the overs on everything. So if you like the under on something, wait until 4 p.m.
Let the dumb money just pump it up.
Let it get pumped up before you go in and you ham your under.
I haven't made a prop bet this year, so I do think I'm going to kind of let the spirit take the wheel. I'll do a couple for fun, but I think they'll be right before kickoff.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to throw out, big, what 4 or 5 years ago when these teams met, we saw big rumor was that Pete Carroll didn't want to have to pay Marshawn, and so he threw it within the one.
What? Wait, that was the rumor?
Yeah, it was a rumor.
I didn't hear that.
They were up to a cap space. And so they had to make sure, where do we go? Do we go Russ or do we go Marshawn? If you remember,
no way, dude.
Marshawn within 2 years was with the Raiders. So you're looking at that.
This is a spicy take, which is why
this
I love
is
that it's here.
wild. Wait,
Yeah.
so
this is a classic.
So let's play this out for a second. Pete Carroll said, I want to take a shot on not winning the Super Bowl by not handing it off to my number one running back.
He was so confident. He's like, I got to start gaming out.
Dude, that would be
no.
crazy.
I think it's not like I want to take that. It's who do I want to feature? Who is our guy that we want to highlight? If you remember, Marshawn already had a touchdown that time. So who's going to be the Super Bowl MVP? Right? Are you going to, or do you want to feature the Super Bowl MVP being Russ, or do you want the Super Bowl MVP being Marshawn? And then within 2 years, Marshawn's in Oakland or in Vegas.
We need to have the aluminum hats for this one, because this is all the way to the top.
I love
it.
That.
Conspiracy corner,
dude. That is nuts.
Yeah, I do love it.
Man, crazy. One thing that I typically will bet is shortest touchdown scored. It's usually pinned at a half or 1.5 yards. Looks like it's 1.5 yards this year. I typically will. I'm going to take the over there.
Take the over?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let me circle back on that though. Hang on a second. So I know you guys said that we got our aluminum hats on, or
conspiracy corner.
Conspiracy corner every corner.
Whatever. Plus 700. Plus 700. Do they Seahawks attempt to pass from inside the Patriots 1?
Wait, I'm not seeing that. That's
Where's
cool.
This?
Interesting. What are you betting there?
Is this Drive SGP? No.
No, this
What do you think, Bruce? What's your spider sense is telling you?
I think this is interesting because we talk about the writers, we talk about the storylines, we talk about how, everybody's playing Pete Carroll throwing the ball and getting roasted and then obviously fired. I do think, though, the way that the T's and P's, the way that the Seahawks have scored, utilizing the short throws, the extension of a running game, and those kind of crawfish and outside, I do think this is an interesting pick. And at 7-1, guys, that's not a bad get to yes on that.
Russo, your homework assignment is to cook up maybe a 3-leg parlay of the juiciest little takes, and you need to give those to the fans for Super Bowl week, because there's some of these that would be just really fun. But let's stack a couple together. Let's get like a plus 10,000 cranking on here.
Tweet it out on the main Insta account.
Yeah, I love this.
No,
I'm down for like a big long shot bet that would just be electric. If it for this
$100, and then we all go to Vegas. Who knows?
Who knows, baby? So I guess to wrap this up, what I will say is what I expect from a game script perspective here is I expect a low scoring game, and I expect the Pats to stay in it and to be in it certainly in the first half. I think we're going to see a field goal game here, but I am 2-5 in the playoffs this year.
Not great.
So,
I will say the thing that was really the last. I know that I was saying I hope the over hits. The fourth quarter of the Broncos game for the Pats, I think, was very telling in terms of like Vrabel having ultra discipline, field management, not being aggressive, not forcing a turnover. That was like I don't know if that's jiu-jitsu, I don't know if that's chess, but as someone that needed the Pats to cover there and needed the extra touchdown, they were just extreme tacticians down the stretch. I feel like he was locked into the limits of what the Broncos offense could do and was not taking the bait on it. I think I gained respect for Vrabel as a coach, not letting his emotions get the best of him in that scenario in a big game. Weather, all this other stuff, you got a master coach across the field from you waiting for you to mess up. So I do think if the Pats find something that's working, I could see them cinching down and just grind it out football if that's what they have to do to win. So he's got a lot of different ways to win a football game. So I do think that lends itself to that like tight game. They're willing to be disciplined and leave and not make a mistake. I think that's something that they've learned through the playoffs, and they were pretty excellent down the stretch against the Broncos on that.
Don't disagree, man. Don't disagree. All right, we'll keep moving here. We got a couple other things we want to talk about this week. Look, it's the end of the season. I've had some good takes and I've had a lot of bad takes.
How much time do we got?
We probably need about 3 hours for this, but we're going to take about 5 minutes. So we're going to go through Ryan's best takes, worst takes of the season. We'll start with the worst takes, and we may just end there because they're pretty bad. So what I like to do in preseason before we get to September 9th and kickoff is I'm going through my power rankings on teams, and I'm betting win totals typically when they come out, and those win totals will come out right after the draft, and then they'll go away, and then they will show back up a couple months before the season. So this is end of July, early August. Here's who I was really high on, and I was just dead wrong this season. I was very high on the Cardinals to win the division. Cardinals won, 4 games this year? So pretty wrong on that. I think that ranks as probably the 5th worst take.
Yeah, we got to kind of hit some of these, a couple of the big ones on here, Ryan.
Why don't you go ahead, Austin, and you just kind of pick from the list that I've laid out here as far as which ones you wanted to ask me about.
Raiders, you were so high on the Raiders this year, man.
I thought I had a good coach, good quarterback combination.
Good coach, good quarterback, good coach, good quarterback. Like you thought Geno was gonna take him to the promised land. The thing that, and we've talked about this on the pod, like at some point, I feel like you had to update the, you know what I like? It's like they've played 10 games.
Update the priors.
They can't score. You got to update the priors. That was the one. It wasn't so much the initial take. It's like we're in week 12, and you're like, man, I feel like the Raiders. And I was like, the Raiders suck, man. They haven't scored a point in like 3 games. That was more than the initial take. I feel like never letting that one go was the thing that made it bad.
I mean, they had a weak schedule. They had, obviously, they're playing the AFC West, but outside of the division, they had a weak schedule. And
Yeah.
I thought Geno and the Pete Carroll combination was going to go over well in Vegas, and it fell flat on its face.
I mean, it went well in Vegas when they were trying to score points at the end of the game to cover some spreads. That's the only time that they showed any signs of life. I do think you got like Giants over 5.5, I think was a good pick. I think you got screwed by injuries this year.
I also got screwed by the fact that they were leading 3 games by 20 points in going into the fourth quarter, and they lost all of them.
I mean, they had some bad beats if you're a season-long Giants bettor.
Brutal.
So Seattle, obviously, I remember it was like week 9 or 10. They had this hot start to the year. You were like, fade. You're like, sell Seattle, Darnold.
I was looking for a spot to fade Seattle after they got off to the hot start.
I actually probably agreed with you just because of what I thought about Darnold. So I was riding right there with you on that one. The Bears pick, I made some good bets on you fading the Bears.
So what my notes were from the beginning of the season is I will typically take a look, in addition to strength of schedule, where the bye occurs for teams. Because if you have an early bye, when you get towards the end of the season, week 15 on, and you have a tough schedule like the Bears did, that is when I put in literally in my calendar to say, start fading the Bears at this point in the season. And it didn't work out for me, but the Bears overall were a pick that, I had them under 7.5 wins. That got ramrodded in the first 8 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever. And I was just dead wrong on the Bears all year this year.
I think the craziest pick on this list is you have Colts under 7.5 wins, which had to feel like the worst bet you could have placed like in the first 6 weeks of the season. And you almost hit that bet, man. You almost cashed that bet.
Yeah. Colts had 8 wins.
Yeah, that's actually insane, the way that you did not get that bet.
This was an interesting year for me. I will say generally I have not had a season where my priors are this wrong in the reflection at the end of the season. I want to take one victory lap, and this is on
You
Sam
can take 2
Darnold.
victory laps. Yeah, you can take it. You had some good takes too that were pretty
I'm
long
just going to go
shots.
ahead. I'm going to take my one on Sam Darnold. I think you guys probably remember when Sam Darnold did not get signed with the Vikings and they just let him go. And this was 9 months ago now. I was losing it on our thread. And I said, this is the dumbest decision I've ever seen. This
Yeah,
organization has no idea what they're doing.
they
And
don't.
I think I got a little bit of, proven true this week. Kyle,
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about GM for the Vikings getting fired this week and what that means for the organization as a whole. I think it was a weird week for the Vikings in the building.
I think it was a weird overall. The GM pushing Darnold out the door because he wanted to hit on JJ. But if you look at the history of the picks
gosh.
of that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa, who was the GM that was fired, I mean, this is historically bad. His selections these last 3 years have been historically bad. So let's take a look at that real quick and then I'll kind of get everybody's take on. So going back, his very first pick, Lewis Klein. Lewis Klein had a broken leg at the beginning of the season, off the team in 2 years. Andrew Booth was his next pick, a total of 1 passes defended for the entire of his career. You go
Nice.
down the list, look at his first round picks. Yes, in 2023, Jordan Addison,
Jordan
not a bad
Addison.
pick, but some serious regression in
Yeah.
2025. I think only had a handful of picks. Jury's out on JJ. Dallas Turner out of Alabama.
JJ sucks.
I think the jury's still out. I mean, you had that offensive line is
I think the
terrible.
jury's in. I am out on 9. I don't
On
understand
a 1
how,
year?
Yeah, dude, he sucks.
I think
That's
we
what
saw
people
what
were
we
saying
needed
about
to
Darnold,
see.
and then
Darnold was on the
Vikings.
Jets
Yeah, man, Vikings
with
have
with no pieces around him. You've got a good head coach, a strong organization.
yeah,
I know that we're ripping on the GM right now, but you've got a lot of pieces down the field. O-line is strong. Defense is pretty good.
great. Defense
I
is
don't
great,
know,
man.
man. I think that they've got to be sitting there today thinking
They're
clearly
a
they
Sam
are.
Darnold away from maybe being in the playoffs themselves or the Super Bowl themselves, man.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Kyle,
That's what's crazy, Kyle, is you look at the picks and how many of these have not baked out, and then you look at their team, a lot of the pieces in place. I agree that trading Darnold was someone had to pay for that trade, seeing how he's been this year.
I,
But it's kind of incredible that they've been able to field. They must just kill it in like the trade deadline and these other acquisitions for overcoming these draft picks.
I mean, the kind of, I don't know, headbutting, if you will, that those two had
Yeah.
on Darnold, on these big people, I think led to his demise at the Vikings. But the other thing that was a hot take that came out of this is he took multiple weeks of paternity leave. It gets roasted
Yeah. Rough.
when people don't, it's kind of a badge of honor in the NFL to wear to be there for the birth and then you're back in the league, especially during the season. So what does this say about the NFL culture? Is this a change? Is that fair critique against him? I don't know.
Kyle, you're the only one on this pod that has worked in the NFL. I'm curious your take on that, in all
Kyle,
honesty.
let us put the inside scoop, baby. We want to hear what it's like.
Pull the
behind
curtain back a
ropes.
little bit and give us, maybe give the listeners just like a
Give 'em a little
2-minute
taste.
overview in regards to what you did in the NFL and,
Yeah.
roost the goose for me.
I'll goose as best I can, but I think what I would say is that work or overdrive culture is definitely a thing.
Yeah, man.
I remember working for 18-hour days for months on end, whether it was camp or getting ready. There's always something to do. There's always
Yeah.
evaluation. There's always tape. There's always something like that. But I will say, and I had some good GMs. I saw some good GMs. I've listened and heard some podcasts from some GMs that are not great. And I do think taking as much time as he did off, which I'm hearing was in the season, not necessarily this season, but
Oof.
previously, really goes to show that he wasn't ready for this role.
Man, Bruce, we have to have a whole off-season episode dedicated to like the back office cultures of the NFL and what's actually going on. I think what I would be curious in is like I'm looking at these picks. You juxtapose that with I remember before the Texans playoff game against the Pats, they were showing every pick the Texans have had of the last 2 or 3 seasons, 20 starters in their last 24 picks or something crazy hit rate. I would be curious what kind of a batting average is for GMs in terms of are you successful or not, right? Is it like between maybe we could develop some kind of a rubric or scorecard on that. Like how you determine successful draft picks, free agency moves, people you give up. I would love to have a scorecard for these GMs that we developed a methodology for because I don't really have a sense for like how bad can you be at draft picks and still keep your job, you know?
Yeah, and I will say the thing that's really helping, and they've already announced that the salary cap has just exploded. The NFL is making more money than it ever has. You
They
looking
just
at
keep
the CBA, they just keep increasing the dollars coming
this
out
big
here.
ESPN deal coming. Yeah.
Absolutely, and so I think that's let a lot of people off the hook. But if you look back, even just 10
There's
years
just more
ago,
money to go get free agents and
yeah,
cover. Yeah.
you really had to make your way in the draft because those guys are so much cheaper than
Yeah.
going out and getting a
Totally.
free agent.
Man, I think that's such an interesting topic and something that even big fans of football like we are know so little about. I would love to spend like 2 hours with you on that this offseason, Roos.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we are developing our schedule for off-season content. We've got a full week dedicated towards understanding the cap, and
Yeah.
that's going to be led by Roos the Goose over there. And I don't think that we will be able to be experts on how the cap works by the end of that episode, but I would really like to dive in. And I agree with you, Austin. I have a good feel for ranking coaches. I
Yeah.
have a good feel for ranking players. When you take a step back from the business perspective on the GMs, it's hard unless you are diving into the draft every single year, like some guys do. It is really hard to evaluate them. And I would love for us to create our own little, GTY data
Yeah,
set
man.
where we are
Yes.
ranking GMs on a year to year basis and we can go back to that. Because if I could start adding that into my preseason rankings for teams,
Yeah.
for power
Oh,
ranking
yeah.
for teams,
Yep.
I think that that would be really helpful from a betting perspective.
And you know that there are some picks or some moves that take 3 to 5 years to actually play out.
There are some organizations that seem to manipulate the cap better than others, and
Yeah.
how they do that is something that we are going to dive into this offseason alongside with the NFL coaching, how coaches are groomed, the coaching trees, where they're successful, where that success comes from, the types of offenses that they run, and all of that. So I'm really excited about the offseason content that we've got coming up on this show.
It's so interesting how the day the season's over, coaches get slaughtered. You have to left and right? 30% of the league's coaches turnover plus head like names that are surprising to you. Really, I mean, how quiet has that been on the GM side of the house? I think it is because they're under the radar and they don't get the media scrutiny that these coaches get, but they may be the people that made all the personnel, changes that actually set that team up for success. So anything that we can do to help quantify that, put some like methodology behind that.
If I was to think about it from the business perspective, Roos, I'm curious, you know more here than I do, but this is what I would pose. If I was to think about it from being the owner, I am probably talking to the GM every single day, and I am gaining a level of respect and trust for my number two. In theory, is that relationship so much different with the coach? Is there not the connective tissue? Is this why we see in the Giants hiring Harbaugh that Harbaugh specifically asks in his contract that he
He doesn't
reports
want
to
to go through
Mr.
the GM.
Mara? It's almost like the board to the CEO to the manager level, where it's just
Interesting.
the managers are going to get wiped out. But if the board's going to keep the CEO around because he keeps pitching or she keeps pitching the story that the company's on the up and coming and it's just the middle management that has to go, that they haven't been performing with their teams, is
That's so
kind of liken
interesting.
it to that.
A couple notes I want to put on this, and we'll deep dive obviously this summer and spring. But good GMs and good organizations do not have boatloads of money in dead cap space, and so I think the reason that you don't see a lot of GM turnover is because GMs have to deliver a strategic vision, whether that's 3, 5 years out, looking at hey, who are our guys that we're going to sign, who do we not want to sign, and what does that money look like? Because if you flip over and coaches want their own people for their own schemes and that kind of stuff, but schemes can change easily. The strategic vision of 3 to 5 years, let's say you go from we're going to prioritize the offensive line, we want a running back, and that's kind of what our philosophy is here. Our strategic vision is going to use a great offensive lineman, you don't have dead cap that you would have. Let's say I want to have this quarterback for this scheme and then I get rid of him and then I have 30, $40 million of dead cap that I can't use. So I think that's why you have the difference between getting the coaches being turned over so much, because the scheme, you can find a scheme that fits a strategic vision, but you can't change that strategic vision all the time for what the coach wants.
When you think about the Dolphins, right, and you think about the team that they put together on paper, the coach that they had, that feels like crazy fast skill position players, super accurate quarterback, an offensive prodigy. Like, man, it just feels like it's so hard to get all those pieces to click. And then when it doesn't work and you kind of clear house, like, it just gives you an appreciation for how far you're probably maybe 3 to 5 years before you can like get something clicking like that again. Like those windows may be smaller than we even think.
These windows are I mean, are one and done normally, because you have to have all those pieces line up. And that's why, maybe a take for next week is, why Bill Belichick didn't make the Hall of Fame when he consistently did it and nobody else has. In the modern era of the NFL, no.
So let's hit this real quick. If you've been living under a rock for the past week, Bill Belichick was not inducted into the Hall of Fame. And there's been a lot of hubbub in mainstream media about this. I don't frankly care at all. But his record as a coach would make you think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The voting on the Hall of Fame for the writers is a little bit messed up in the fact that they get to vote for 3 of the 5 that are up for the Hall of Fame every single year. And Belichick got 39 of the 50 votes. You need 40 votes, 80% hit rate in order to be able to get in. There's a lot of talk that Kraft is going to get in this year, and Kraft called in a couple of favors with the writers because he doesn't want to be inducted at the same time that Belichick is going in. There's a lot of people talking about the Deflategate situation and how that was, a problem, or the sign stealing situation and how that was.
Is that not going to keep Kraft out of the Hall of Fame? We're going to talk about Deflategate versus MassageGate. We're not going to throw that into the equation.
Wienergate,
MassageGate. So it's
Wienergate.
got to hit both ways, man.
I don't know what it is. I will say, Connor did a good write up in The Athletic this week. And there was a couple interviews with him where he was talking about how the sign stealing allegations and what happened,
man.
That should have been part of the discussion. But the reality is you still vote that guy in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Brady came out and said, to me, is the best coach to have ever done it. Should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, would you guys have voted him in if you had a vote?
Yes.
I think you have to vote him in.
Who am I? Can you imagine? I mean, we're the member of the Fourth Estate, right? We're the media. Can you imagine?
Hey, we got Roost the Goose on here now.
We got Roost the Goose on the pod. We're pulling in marquee Pod Bros. Like, can you imagine thinking, like, I'm just trying to think of what's in your head as a writer, and you're like, Bill Belichick.
Apparently it was Bill Polian, who is holier than thou.
Guilty. He sounded guilty as sin in his little
he did
early onset dementia defense.
But
he's like, I did that. I voted for that. I don't remember that.
I just wanted to highlight for Bill Belichick to have the window that he did for, what was that, almost a decade of winning.
It's 20 years, man.
To Brady.
That's a sunroof. That's not a window.
To do that, he didn't have two things he did. Number one is he built around his one player and plugged in people that he could find in the draft. We're looking at Mike Vrabel. We're looking at Teddy Bruschi. Those are big picks. That's hard to do. And number two is he didn't overextend or overspend on people where he was left holding the bag when they either got hurt or didn't perform.
So is that the coach or is that the GM? Is that the coach?
I think they worked hand in hand. They had that relationship. Hand in hand.
Yeah. Like, it's like, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, he's like, I know what kind of player that fits our system, right? He's like, I can find these guys. They don't need to be the first round draft picks. We can trade. If we have a high draft pick, we can trade for more picks. We're going to do more with these 3rd through 7th round guys, right? So, like, that was like the scheme and the coach just like working together like nothing else.
Well, I will say for the most of his career, he was the de facto general manager. So it was kind of one guy, but they had, what was that guy? But another guy that helped in their scouting department.
I don't know. He tried to run Brady out when they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, I think that Belichick as a coach was great. I think where the Patriots started making a mistake was giving him too much power as the GM, and I think that that was ultimately the downfall, in my opinion. But we can keep moving as we talk about coaching carousel, and let's finish here. A lot of moves, and we're starting to see this round out.
Yeah.
Everyone has hired their head coach at this point. Some are better than others.
Who do we think actually got better with these coaching moves? Because I think that's a much shorter list.
I think the number one has to be Joe Brady with the Bills. I think giving that guy control to add more weapons around Josh Allen. Josh Allen was out there doing it by himself, guys. And you look at those playoff games, he's in there doing the quarterback powers, that kind of stuff. Getting him some tight ends to help him, some more receivers, and getting an offensive minded guy in there, I think is huge for them to take that next step.
Wow. Okay,
I did not see that coming.
here's the
But
thing.
I respect it.
Your logic makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Them hiring Joe Brady seems like the dumbest decision I've ever heard of in my entire life.
I see.
Why would you fire Sean McDermott only to hire the next guy up in the building? That does not make any sense to me. What has been the story with the Bills and what we heard from the owner on why they got rid of McDermott was the fact that they keep getting close, but they don't ever get there. What that says to me is let's bring new blood into the building, not promote existing people in the building.
I mean, I think there's only two organizations that I think definitely got better.
I agree. And if it's not the Titans and the Giants,
It's the
then I don't
bald.
know
It's
what
the
you're
bald.
talking
It's
about.
the Bald Boys in Tennessee,
Bald Boys, baby.
and it's the New York Football Giants.
I mean, could you possibly get worse if you're the Titans or the Giants?
Dude,
What are we talking about?
Dude, they cleaned up, man.
This is the best offseason that the Titans have had, and it is February
Totally.
2nd right now.
Help
They
me
haven't
understand.
Saleh, I
drafted
love
a
Saleh.
pick.
Yeah,
This
dude.
is unbelievably good.
I don't know much about Gus. I don't know much about Gus Bradley, but the Colts were balling on defense for
Yeah,
a while.
man.
Until they
And
weren't.
he's been under Shanahan for the past year. Like, he's going to be
Yeah.
great. I don't know how you can't love this. They've got $100 million of cap space. We think the quarterback, I don't know how much you guys watched of the Titans this year. I watched more than probably most.
I had red zone. I couldn't find him.
But Cam Ward looked athletic. He did not look accurate, but he made some throws that you were like, wow, there's some talent there. And
It's like
with
Josh Allen rookie year, right?
with somebody like Brandon Daboll coming in to be able
Yeah.
to take a raw talent like Cam Ward, if he is the guy, hopefully he is, and Saleh, who I think the world of, runs a very tight ship,
Yeah,
is
dude.
well organized, has been a head coach before in a bad
both- yeah,
organization.
I think Saleh and Dabble were good coaches in totally effed up organizations. I love that they're coming together. Are we wrong on those two
Over under 6 wins.
Over.
for Titans?
I think the line's got to be.
Smash.
I think it's got to be 6.5
Smash.
this year.
Smash.
Weak division.
6.5.
I think 6.5 is going to be the opening line, depending on the draft.
Completely weak division. That team had barely any running game. Offensive line that was like
Their
Swiss
offensive line.
cheese.
The O line
that
was
is true.
terrible.
That is
Yes.
true.
They got to fix the O
takes-
line.
true.
It takes
That
more
is-
than 1 or 2 draft picks and spending money in free agency.
You've got $100 million of cap space.
Yeah, you can go get some guys.
You can get some. You
you don't
get
need to go
some
get
guys.
a quarterback.
You
can
don't
get
have to
some,
pay
you can
the
get a lot of guys for
quarterback.
$100 million.
You can go get some guys, and you can give Cam Ward a fair shot. But get to 6.5. That's a no from the Rooster Goose.
Oh,
Get
dude.
to yes.
I mean, that's going to be my best bet of the offseason. I hope.
And you got to kind of like, do you think they're going to give Giants 5.5 or it's already going to be baked in at like 6.5 or 7.5?
I think it's gonna be
What do you
baked
think?
in.
I think the
7.5?
Giants opened 7.5 or 8.
Oh yeah, you got Scadaboo, Jackson Dart.
Dude, Jackson Dart played out of his mind throwing to who this year? Blake Neighbors was not on the field the entire time that Jackson Dart was on the field.
He's got the IHOP ad campaign to prove it.
Dude,
for
I
everyone
am
that drafted
so bullish on the Giants. I might take the Giants to win the division next year.
I mean, my biggest concern is that Jackson Dart's now a tomato, so he's the next Tua.
Yeah.
Come on, like that guy's taking hits left and right, dude.
I mean, I think unlike Tua, Jackson Dart just doesn't have a lot going on up there to begin with. So
it's kind of a
it
wash.
may not really matter.
It's a wash.
I think the more
like,
he
"Look,
gets
man."
hit, the better he gets.
God, dude.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to hit on, which club is the worst off from all these coaching moves. You're like, man, they're dead.
When you say got worse, are you saying they were
They had a good deal.
You felt
They
better
hired this
about them
person.
before this
Yes.
happened?
Yes.
For me, it's the Ravens, to be honest. You let Harbaugh out of the building. I like Minter. From what I've seen, I think he's good. He's a defensive head coach, though. You're going to say in 2026 season with arguably a top 5 quarterback and top 5 roster, we're going to bring in a defensive head coach and feel good about this. You got another thing coming, Ravens. I mean, I am fading
What about
them.
the Steelers?
With Lamar, hang on, let me say, with Lamar, I think you have to have a special game plan and a special offense around his talent.
Yeah.
And I think Harbaugh was that guy. He is that offensive mind. And then so I think you're going to see a huge regression. I concur with Ravens getting worse. I think you're going to have a huge regression for Lamar because the scheme's not going to be there to support his talents.
Austin, who got worse for you?
I'm going to say this. I think the whole AFC North got worse. I think that they're about to be the NFC South. Man.
I mean, the Browns
Hate to
couldn't
say
have
that.
gotten much worse. At least they have an offensive mind in the building now with
I think
Todd Monken.
Ravens got worse. I think Steelers got worse.
Yeah.
Bengals, I can't believe they kept their coach. That's probably the one coach that should have been fired in the division. So I think the AFC North was kind of being propped up by these like legendary coaches. And I don't know. I think maybe the bottom falls out in the next couple of years for the AFC North. Hate to say it because NFL is better when the AFC North is cranking, but man,
Agreed.
You can't look at this and be like, feel great about the next 3 years for these guys.
All right, before we close here, let's spend 2 minutes on the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy. Thoughts from the guys here. You are both Cowboys fans, and you obviously put the Cam Newton jersey on every once in a while and root for the Panthers, but you guys have both lived through the Mike McCarthy years in Dallas with Dak, and what I saw was to be an utter disaster under the management of Mike McCarthy. From a pure stat standpoint, Mike McCarthy looks good, but we tend to forget that he was with Aaron Rodgers in his prime in Green Bay for a long time. That kind of stacked those stats in a good way. What do you guys think?
Dude, I think I'll take this real quick, Bruce. I'm not going to stay long. I feel like if you got a lot of assets in place, he's like kind of a steady, uninspiring. He's a little conservative, like CEO that you hire to like run this thing for 5 years. And I think he's gotten less inspiring as he's progressed. So from what they came from, that's just got to feel so dead in the building with Mike McCarthy in there. I just don't think he really gets. Tell me if I'm wrong, Bruce.
I don't think Mike McCarthy can get anybody fired up. That guy couldn't motivate a fat kid to a buffet. At 62 years old,
He can motivate himself to the buffet.
That's
He can
true.
motivate himself to the buffet.
At 62 years old, I think this is the worst pick. I think of the teams that got the worst, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the worst. You look into to kind of projecting where they're at. You have an old coach that can't inspire anybody. You have
Mike
Rodgers.
Tomlin. Gosh,
You have Rodgers,
such a
hopefully going to retire. You're leaderless at the helm of the most important position, quarterback. Looking
we already
at
gave him a
this,
swan song, so he has to retire now.
He has to
because
retire.
The Yes boys already gave
Ryan
him.
basically had
So
What
what
was
are
the
we
eulogy?
posting? What, 5.5? Get to yes, 5.5.
No, dude. Here's the thing for me. I think that the Steelers actually got better with this hire.
Ooh, hot take.
God,
Tag this
that's
one
so
because
hot.
this is going to be part of the next year's 8-year
Let's
review.
get the AFC North on socials roasting you for this. Let's break it down though.
You guys know that I love Tomlin. He's probably the number one coach for me.
You love Tomlin.
But if I think about what is going on with the AFC North specifically, that division to me screams, I do need an offensive minded coach in the building. And as much as I hate to say it, Mike McCarthy is not a good coach, but he is an offensive minded coach. And I think that with the ability that they're going to have with cap space on the Steelers,
Who are they going to get?
their defense, they don't need to beef up anymore because they've been beefing it up for the past 10 years.
Their defense is old, long in the tooth. They are towards the end of their prime.
Well, if you believe that, I mean, we could see a trade for Watt from one of these teams.
Right.
They get a bunch of picks before the draft happens.
Is Mason Rudolph going to take him there?
Well, they drafted that kid last year who
Will Howard?
And I don't know anything about this Will Howard kid. Do you
The
guys know anything
Ohio
about
State
him?
guy?
From Kansas State before that. I mean, guys played a lot of ball and won everywhere he's been. Is he the truth that's going to bring him? I
think the
think so.
floor is very high with McCarthy. I think that the ceiling is also very low with McCarthy. And I think the reality is they're going to be a 9-win team.
Really?
Yeah.
You think?
I do. And
wow.
I mean,
wow,
but
that's a hot take.
But I think to
Dude,
your
I hope you ride
Austin,
the Steelers next year. I'm going to get to 80%.
I think to both of your guys' points, the hire doesn't make sense to me because you're going to go and not actually take a shot at trying to change the building. I mean, why would you go ahead and let Tomlin actually walk away? As much as it was oh yeah, Tomlin made the decision, they had to have had a conversation, and it was a mutual parting of ways.
Or the Steelers haven't fired a coach maybe ever.
If I'm getting the chance to hire a new coach and bring new blood in the building, I am going and I'm getting Mike McDaniel. I'm getting Brian Dable. I'm getting somebody with a young resume, right?
Still something in there.
Give me somebody who is under 50 years old, who can really bring some new energy to this team. It doesn't mean that they're going to be bad next year. I think they're going to get 9 wins. I just don't think that it's the future. And I think it was a bad decision for the organization as a whole.
All right, to wrap up, hot takes. We have Brian with
Steelers will get 9 wins.
9. I got Bills at 11, over 11.
God,
Austin, what is your hot take?
Wait, hold on. You said over 11.5.
11.5.
You got to give us. You got to ride the 11.
12 wins is gonna be pretty hard.
You got to ride the 11.
12 wins. I got 12 wins. Yeah, I got that,
dude. I kind of want to take the Titans.
Titans over 6.5.
Yeah, man. Ooh, yes,
I'd be shocked if it wasn't 6.5. If it's under 6.5, we're gonna hammer that line as soon as it comes out. I think they could
hammer it, eat the flag stick, eat it.
What do you want to see in the offseason, real quick, on the Titans, and we'll end?
I've already seen it, man. I mean, maybe they have a good draft. I don't know, but
you got 2 coaches. What else do you want to see?
I want to see them build the O-line, and I think that Dable can do that. And I would like to see them go and get a solid workhorse running back, either in a trade,
which are always
out there,
which are the draft, man. You can always get a great value running back in the draft.
And I think if those 2 things happen, I think that they are in a really, really good spot.
Something that we talked about a lot, Roos, is like there have been some teams that look at the Pats last year, man. Pats won 4 games last year, and they got the right coach in the building. They had a good young quarterback. They're playing in the Super Bowl. Like, I think this was the year that the right coach came in when these young pieces were in place, which is, I think, why Harbaugh went to the Giants. Like, you saw 3 or 4 times this year, the teams that really defied the odds, all they did was get the right coach to turn things around inside the building. You got to look at the Titans getting the lottery with the Bald Boys as being the most likely contestant. I mean, they could win 10 games next year.
I think the big difference there is at the Pats 2 years ago having a top 10 offensive line. They have a top 10 offensive line again now. Yeah. That's a huge hole that I just don't think you can fill, and that's why I'm I guess dovish on the
go spend some money for the
Titans.
Big dogs. Yeah, man. Spend it. You got the cap space.
It's the number one thing you got to fix. And if you don't have a strong offensive line, you have nothing in this league. So
you have nothing.
We know that for sure. All right, boys. This was fun.
I'll be at Waste Management.
We'll
talk about it next week.
Oh, yeah. We got a little golf preview, Waste Management next week. Our own Austin is going to be in the stadium. It's going to be pretty exciting.
We're mixing in some golf content once we shift to the off season, but we're going to take it one thing at a time.
All right, guys.
All right, boys. Great show.
Appreciate you.
Love you, buddy. Thanks for coming, man.
Love you guys. Bye.
See ya.